welcome to my channel. My name is Rhea and today we are going to talk about the full moon happening on 7th March 2023. So let's get started. Now, a full moon in astrology is a point where something completes itself, where something closes out, where something culminates, right? A full moon is also considered a point where there's a lot of emotional release, right? Because a full moon is when the sun and the moon are in opposition, right? Let me just choose a different color. I thought this is pretty, but okay, it's a little too light. So that's the moon, that's the sun, and they're in opposition. The moon in astrology represents our emotions and the sun represents our soul. So they are opposing each other, they are in contradiction, and this can create emotional tension, this can create emotional release, right? So that's with every full moon, and that's something we must be mindful of. Now, this is a very special full moon, right? Because there's a lot going on. And one by one we'll talk about that, but before that, this full moon's at 16 degrees of Virgo. You can see this, right? And this is almost on my ascendant. Now, Virgo is the sign that represents work, right? It's the day-to-day work that we do. It represents our diet, it represents our health, it represents the little things in our lives, right? It represents our routine, it represents all these little things. So with a full moon here, these themes of maybe our routine, maybe our diet, maybe our health, maybe our job, these can come to the surface, these can be highlighted. Now, if you know your chart, right, look for 16 degrees of Virgo, whichever house this falls in, that's the theme that will be highlighted. If you don't know your chart, that's okay. So these are the themes that can be highlighted very broadly speaking. Now, on a collective level, on a global level, Virgo represents health. It also represents healthcare workers, healthcare system. It's the service sector, right? It's also things like makeup and nutrition, that sort of thing. So on a global level, maybe some themes associated with this can be magnified with this full moon. Now we'll talk about the aspects that this moon is making, because the aspects color the energy of the moon. Right now, this moon is making a trine to Uranus. Uranus is the planet of changes, sudden changes, right? Unexpected changes. And this is aspecting the moon. You can see this 120-degree angle. And what this can mean is that there's a sudden element to this full moon. Maybe something complete itself suddenly, unexpectedly, out of the blue, right? Maybe something comes up in the Virgo themes that I mentioned out of the blue. But this is a positive aspect, so it might not feel stressful or challenging, but with Uranus, one can never say, right? Because it is very unpredictable. So what we want to watch out for are sudden changes, unexpected changes. We want to watch out for things that can happen unexpectedly. This is good for getting insights, getting epiphanies, having realizations. But since it's a positive aspect, whatever the changes that happen or come about can support us. But again, with Uranus, one can never say. So there's a sudden element to this moon, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is that on the moon, right, a little after, I believe, Saturn here changes signs. Right now, that's a big deal because Saturn changes signs quite rarely, once in 2.5, 3 years, and it's been in the sign of Aquarius for good since December of 2020. It did go back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius before that, but finally it stayed in Aquarius December 2020. So since then, it has been transiting the sign of Aquarius, and it's at the end now. You can see 29:59. It's just about to enter Pisces, and it does so on the day of the moon, right? And this means themes are shifting. Themes are shifting in a big way. Saturn is the most tangible planet. What I mean by that is, with Saturn, whatever it's doing, we feel that in our material reality in a very potent way. So with Saturn shifting signs, we'll see a theme shift in quite a tangible way. Aquarius is the sign of science, tech, innovation, progress, equality, humanity, rebellion, astrology. It's also the sign of social isolation, right? So since 2020, Saturn has been working on these themes and we felt it quite acutely. And now it's going to enter the sign of Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, right? It's where things come to an end. So the next 2.5, 3 years, as Saturn will stay in the sign of Pisces for the next 2.5, 3 years, we will restructure Piscean themes on a collective level, right? Pisces is closing out past chapters. So these 2.5, 3 years can be a major closeout before something new arrives in 2025, 2026, right? This can also be a lot of focus on the healthcare system, on the hospital system, on issues of immigration, right? On issues of mental health, on issues of addictions and alcohol and drugs, that sort of thing. There can be a lot of focus put on this area with Saturn here on a global level. Personally, this can ask us to, close out past chapters in a big way. It can ask us to think about our own mental health, think about what we need to leave behind so that we can step into something new in the future. And of course, where Pisces is in your personal chart, right? So whatever said and done, this moon, there we'll see a theme shift, right? We'll see a theme shift with Saturn changing signs. Now, that being said, I do want to mention Pluto here is getting ready to enter the sign of Aquarius. You can see it's at the end degrees of Capricorn, right? And what this means is that March 23rd, when Pluto enters the sign of Aquarius, we'll see another theme shift. But Pluto is not done with Capricorn. It will go back into Capricorn, which means new themes will emerge, but the old Capricornian themes will still be hanging around a little bit till 2024, right? And Pluto in Aquarius will ensure that the Aquarian themes that I mentioned, right, of science, tech, innovation, progress, rebellion, peace, equality, humanity, astrology, social isolation, these themes are not going to go away, right? Because Pluto is going to enter this sign. And what can happen though is Pluto is different in its manifestation than, say, Saturn. Saturn, like I said, is very visible. It's very tangible, right? We feel it. We see it. We see it happening. Pluto is more subtle. It's more subconscious. It's more hidden. It's more slow. So now maybe all these Aquarian themes that I mentioned, they'll continue. But it will be a little more subtle, perhaps. It'll be a little more subconscious, perhaps, right? But those themes are going to stay. So Pluto here is also going to enter Aquarius. I just wanted to mention that. And let's talk about what else is going on. There's a lot going on actually in the month of March, right? This is where a lot of things will begin to close out and a lot of new things will start to happen. But in the next 2.5, 3 years, we'll see a lot more closing outs take place, right? So this is not the point where things close and things begin. It is one of those points, right? But it's in 2025 into 2026 when Saturn and Neptune, they will meet at 0 degrees of Aquarius. That's when we'll see the new really come in. But that's for another video. Coming back to this moon, we also have another major event happening, and that is that Jupiter and Chiron are getting ready to conjunct. This is Jupiter, this is Chiron, right? And they're meeting after many years, and they will meet exact on March 12th, right? But they are super close right now. Now, Chiron is the planet of our pain, of our wounds. It can make us feel wounded. It can make us feel our pain in order to heal, right? It brings this healing, but the healing comes after we are willing to face our pain. And Jupiter here is 1, a magnifier, 2, it brings lessons, and 3, it's a benefic, which means it brings blessings as well. So what this can mean is that this is really magnifying this Chiron energy of facing our pain in order to heal, right? There's healing, but it comes after facing a certain sort of pain. And this can also bring lessons connected to maybe our wounds or maybe our pain, right? And on a collective level, Aries is maybe the collective identity, you can say. So this is a lesson coming to us as a collective in our identity, or this is a healing coming to us as a collective in our identity, right? But whatever said and done with Jupiter in Aries, Aries is highlighted, new beginnings, new starts, initiations, taking action, moving forward. On the negative, because every sign has a not so positive manifestation, on the not so positive side, Aries can be impulsive, Aries can be aggressive, Aries is the sign of war. So these are the themes that have been magnified for a while now. And with Jupiter and Chiron conjuncting at about, 14 degrees of Aries, this could be a healing to our identity as a collective, or just a lesson that comes to us as a collective, right? A learning experience that we all go through as a whole. So that's also happening on the moon. And let's see what else is going on then, and then we'll try it all together. And if you look at the chart right now, Venus is right there, right? Venus is right there. And what this can also mean is that this healing or this process of facing our pain can be connected to Venus, can be connected to the projects that we have in our life, can be connected to our self-worth, can be connected to our appearance or how we feel about ourselves or the relationships that we have, right? So that is also being impacted on the moon. And let's move on a little bit before we pull everything together. We also have Mars here squaring Neptune. Right now, this is the third time Mars will square Neptune. It's the third time because in October, Mars went retrograde, right? And it squared Neptune twice before. This is the third time. And Mars is moving forward. Mars is the planet of action. And Neptune here can bring confusion. But this is the third time this is happening. So what this could mean is that perhaps there's been something that's been a little unclear, that's been a little uncertain, right, since maybe last September, October, right? Could be a business, could be your health, could be your relationship, could be something to do with your children, could be anything. It's going to be different for everybody. But something that's been a little uncertain, unclear, and where you've put in a lot of your energy over the past few months, right? Whether that's a business or your health or whatever area of your life, there could be some clarity coming to that, because this is the third time Mars is squaring Neptune, right? Now, yes, there can still be a little bit of uncertainty, but hopefully in the next few weeks, right, things will become very clear about whatever it is that you might have been confused about over the past few months, and the area that you've put in a lot of your work, a lot of your energy. So some confusing element, maybe a feeling that I can't go on, I feel tired, I feel lethargic, I feel like I don't want to do this, but try not to feel like that, right? Because it's temporary, clarity will come, and that moment of feeling, I don't feel like it, I don't have the energy, maybe just talk yourself out of that if you're feeling that, right? Because this is temporary. We are going to get more clarity as Mars moves on and squares Neptune for the third and final time. So that's something that I wanted to speak about as well. And we also have something more happening. And what's happening is that as Pluto is getting ready to enter the sign of Aquarius, it is squaring the nodes, right? 5-degree orb now. It's squaring the north node Rahu and the south node Ketu. And the square will get more and more intense as we approach July of this year, right? And Rahu and Ketu, the north node and the south node, are the nodes of the moon, right? They are the most karmic points in a chart, I would say, along with Saturn. Right, very karmic points. They bring karmic things, and that's what they do. The North Node also represents the future. It represents where we are headed. It represents where we need to go. Where the South Node represents the past. It represents what we need to detach from. And now Pluto is squaring it, and Pluto is magnified. So there's a lot of there's a lot about transformation over the next few months, right? And with Pluto, transformation comes when we are willing to end something completely, right? So that something new can begin. Pluto here is the planet of death and rebirth. It's the planet of transformation. It's the planet of taking something and changing it in such a drastic manner that it's rebirthed, right? So that theme of things ending, things closing out, things beginning, that's prominent right now. A lot of transformation right now. And this transformational energy is just starting out, right? It's just going to go build and build and build till July of this year, when Pluto will square the nodes exact. So that's something that I just wanted to mention. And as Pluto is squaring the nodes, Saturn here is trining the south node and sextiling the north node, 60-degree angle and 120-degree angle, right? And last year, if you recall, Saturn here was the one squaring the nodes, right? And that's when we felt quite restricted and limited, because Saturn can bring restrictions and limitations. And now, as Pluto is making that aspect, Saturn here is making positive aspects with the nodes, right? And what this can mean is that through hard work, through decisions, through persistence, through dedication, we can move into the future and detach from the past, right? Because Saturn asks for decisions. It asks for work. It asks for persistence. And if we do that, then it gets us what we want, right? So a lot going on with the nodes and Saturn and Pluto, very karmic, very fated, very destined. These, I would say, are destiny points. Rahu, Ketu. Anyway, moving on, we also have a few other things going on, but before we tie it all up together, I want us to think about the last new moon in Pisces. The last new moon in Pisces was on 20th of Feb, right? About 14 days ago. Yeah, 14 days ago. I got confused because Feb has 28 days and this is on March 7th. So the last new moon in Pisces 14 days ago. And that was a new energy coming in, asking us to decide, right? Asking us to decide what we want to leave behind, what we want to close out, because it was sitting right next to Saturn, the moon, right? In many ways, it was about major endings, major release points, right? And the next new moon, which is the new moon in Aries, is at 0 degrees of Aries. Aries by itself is the beginning of the zodiac. A new moon, actually, when the sun enters Aries on March 20th, we'll begin the new zodiac cycle, right? And with the new moon on 21st March in Aries, that's when the new year, you can say, will kick in, the zodiac year, the astrological year. But this time it's even more special because it's at 0 degrees, right? 0 degrees is the absolute beginning of the zodiac. So beginnings coming in around March 21st with the new moon in Aries, and the last moon was a lot about endings. And right now we are right in the middle of the last new moon and the next new moon, right? The full moon point. So maybe we want to pay attention to this. Maybe we want to really focus on what is it that we need to leave behind. What is it that we are really building up to? What is it that we need to transform, right? So these are the questions we might want to ask ourselves. And it's going to be different for everybody because it's going to depend on where it's in your chart, what aspects are going on in your chart, what your natal planets are doing, all that sort of stuff. So I just thought I'd mention that. And to sum it up, I would say that this new moon has that sudden energy to it with its trine to Uranus. So we should be ready for something unexpected. This is a positive aspect, so it should not be stressful. However, with Uranus, it's best to prepare ourselves for anything and everything, even in a positive aspect, right? So that's the important thing with Saturn changing signs. themes are ending, themes are shifting. With Pluto entering Aquarius, a lot of ending of themes, a lot of beginning of new themes. And with the new moon and with the old new moon and the next new moon, what is it that we are ending and what is it that we are beginning? A lot of karmic destined activity over the course of the next few months, with Saturn making positive aspects with the nodes, while Pluto beginning to square the nodes almost, and the exact square will be in July. Right, some sort of healing or some sort of lesson coming to us as a collective when it comes to our identity. It could be a healing, it could be a lesson as well. But whatever's said and done, with Jupiter in Aries, there's a lot of energy to start, initiate, move forward, but we must face our pain, face our wounds, deal with those things, because Chiron is there too. Right, and there might be some confusion, some uncertainty, but this is the third time Mars is going to square Neptune, and that can bring clarity. So if you're feeling confused and uncertain on the moon, wait a little bit, right? As Mars moves on, the clarity will start to come. And this process is something that's been on since last September, October. So that's the moon in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed it, and I want to mention one or two more things about Vedic astrology. In Vedic astrology, we have Saturn changing nakshatras, right? We have Saturn here in Vedic is now in Aquarius as well. It entered the sign of Aquarius on Jan 17th. Now on March 14th, it's going to change nakshatras. In Vedic astrology, nakshatras are smaller divisions of a sign with their own ruler, own meaning, own significance, a lot like the sun signs, right? So now it's going to leave the nakshatra of Dhanishta and enter the nakshatra of Shatpishak. Now the nakshatra of Shatpishak is the nakshatra of the 100 healers, right? Healing is a big theme of this nakshatra, but like I said in my previous video, we can only heal something that's broken, that's hurt, that's not okay, right? So that theme of not being okay or needing the healing is also very prominent, right? The theme of disease with this nakshatra. This nakshatra is ruled by Rahu, the north node, and in Vedic astrology, Rahu represents illusions, deceptions, smoke and mirrors, right? And this nakshatra is all about that. It's about secrets, it's about deceptions, it's about illusions, it's about hiding things, it's about things coming to the surface as well. So with Saturn entering this nakshatra, these themes will begin to be highlighted, right? Themes of health, themes of healing, themes of disease, themes of deception, themes of illusions, right? And what does that sound like? That sounds like Pisces, right? Where Saturn is getting ready to enter on March 7th in Western astrology. So I just wanted to mention that, and this is a very Piscean nakshatra in my opinion, and Saturn is going to enter that on March 14th. So that's all I wanted to say, and this moon's on my ascendant. My ascendant's at 19 degrees of Virgo. This moon's at 16. So let's see what happens. I also have Neptune here squaring my sun. Mars here is going to oppose my sun very quick. Saturn here squared my Pluto, natal Pluto, squared my natal Venus. Uranus here opposed it. A lot going on in my chart as well. So I just wanted to talk about this moon with you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you now next time. Have a great day. Bye.